Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast with your hosts, Kyle Borganoni and Matthew Betz.
Welcome in. Friday, September 19th here. Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I am joined, as always, by Matthew, noted rival dad Betz.
Rival dad? Kyle.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, I mean, there's no rivalry in this neighborhood, okay? They see me walking the dog out with the kids. They know what's up. So there's no rivalry. I mean, they know. You, on the other hand, we got a little rivalry down there in Georgia with Borganoni and the jabronis.
I got a lot of dads on my street, okay? There's a lot of kids, by the way. I mean, my kids' bus stop, which is right outside my house. What if I told you that there are 20 kids that are fifth grade or below on the same bus stop?
That stresses me out just thinking about it.
Every single day, like, I hope I finish recording this podcast before the kids get home, because it's literally like right before we try to time it up. But like, I know that it's just going to be just wild stuff here. But you're about to be in the thick of it, okay? I know you're kind of in the sweet season. Your girls are really, really young. Like, you're going to be in it, and you're going to be that dad that you're not just telling people to get off your lawn, but like, you're going to be threatening people.
Oh, yeah. It's funny. My girls just started preschool 2 weeks ago. They love it. And they came home the other day, and my wife was asking them, like, how did it go? You know, who'd you play with? Did you play with any other girls or boys? And I was like, whoa. Hey there, ladies. Watch out for the boys. No, just kidding. But they started, and it's wild to, like, have that as part of our routine now. So it's fun, man. It's fun to see them grow up and do something new, and they love it. So, yeah, off to a good start this year for their school year.
It is one of those things we try to make sure on the podcast that we mix a little bit of our real life, that to let you know we have real lives outside of this podcast and DFS, but also we love it just as much as you. And I would tell people the best way to stay connected, to stay informed about the different changes, like I know there's a lot of injury news on this slate that you're a part of, is to be a part of our Discord. If you are a DFS Pass member or you are a Foot Clan Ultimate member, you have access to our props channel. You have access to the conversation we have at DFS. I saw our boy Chris Cash, who is one of our new writers this year, in there, like answering questions left and right about the optimizer, just like lightning fast. Where it's like one thing to email into customer service, which we know is Josh. I mean, imagine doing that when you can get Chris Cash in the Discord.
Imagine emailing Josh. He's not going to help you at all. Guy doesn't know anything. Dude, Chris has been an animal. Discord's been awesome. I've loved it. Loved the conversation, like I say. And the best part is too, like, it is kind of fun to see throughout the week, like the process get refined, throw out some lineup ideas, some cash plays, some tournament ideas, and then people give some feedback. By Saturday, by Sunday, you kind of hone in on what you want to do, how you want to attack the slate. So it's been great, man. Love it. And I did want to share, I don't know if you saw this in Discord, Kyle. There is a very, very funny picture of you that Chris made. Looks like some questionable Photoshop work here, Chris.
Okay.
But if you're in Discord, check it out. You're going to love it. It's your face, and in it is it's a bedroom. I'm doing a terrible job of this. I should tweet it out. A bedroom, and everything on the wall says in a frame, "Freak in the Sheets" with an Excel logo.
Okay.
And I mean, that's you, man. And you have some regression signals for us coming on the show today with some props and things like that. So you are the spreadsheet nerd on the show.
I don't know how I ended up there. You know, you think about your life and like where things could have gone wrong or right.
How did we get here?
How did I get here? Because one, how dare you? I'm a Google Sheets guy, and some people out there might not like it. But two, like, I was a film guy first.
Dude,
that's how I came into this.
I know. You and PFF Bobby were grinding the tape, giving your takes. You're still employed.
That's
Sorry,
true.
Bobby.
That's true. Bobby Slowick is not employed, but I am. But it is funny. Whenever I post a stat, people say, watch the film. Whenever I post the film, people say the stats don't match up with that. I can't win.
You'll never believe this, Kyle, but it's very hard to please people on the internet.
Yeah. So fun fact, I have been trying to take a little bit of break from some of the internet stuff. it's nice out here. The grass outside, played some pickleball this morning. Like, it is actually nice outside, people. If you want to go outside, you can. I'm assuming they're listening to this podcast outside.
I would hope so. Yeah, get out now while it's beautiful. I mean, if you're anywhere that gets, snow and all that stuff, I mean, it's not going to be long before we're wishing it was warm. It's like freaking summer out there already. So my wife and I are going to a concert tonight. It's going to be beautiful. Very excited for that.
Shakira?
Yeah, of course. Obviously, front row seats, meet and greets. So it should be good, man. Yeah, touch some grass now because it won't be long before we're stuck inside all winter long and, playing like, I'm trying to think like what's the grossest, like, when they do those Saturday slates in the NFL,
yes,
like right before Christmas.
Like 2 or 3 games.
But like a couple years ago, remember it was like when Zeke was on the Patriots, like that sort of level of football. Like we're going to have that very soon. So yeah, go outside now while you still can.
On this episode, we will give our cash picks, talk about the games we want to stack, talk about our slate breakers. We will prop it like it's hot. And then really it comes down to we are 2 for 2 so far in our survivor pool. And Betz is really good at talking me out of the Vikings this past week. So we'll see where we land at the end of this episode if we're on the same page there. But let's get into our cash picks.
Straight cash, homie.
So I wanted to give people a little tip. If you are struggling with cash or if you're trying to figure out the best way to approach this, we give you a pool of players where we refer to every single week as they're in the pool. They're in the group. We're inviting them to the pool party. But you can also do this if you're one of those people that have the DFS pass. The optimizer is a great way to simply sort by some of the values. So we have one that's called projected value and one that's called GPP value. For cash purposes, it is literally taking our projected points and our salary and gives you the points per dollar projection. So at the quarterback position, I'm just going to tell people right now, I am sorting by our projected value. And the names I have in front of me are the names that Betz has. Okay, so it's the same kind of thing where Drake May is going to show up in a ton of lineups. Daniel Jones, I think, is another cash play at 5.4. Dak Prescott is going to be a strong play if you don't want to play him in cash. I know a lot of people are going to be stacking him up, and we'll talk about that game. But we have to talk about the cheapies this week. Okay, last week we got Mac Jones, Mac Daddy for 4K. This week, the cheap quarterbacks are Carson Wentz at 4K against the Bengals. Carson Wentz plays for the Vikings. I had to say that. And then if we get Marcus Mariota, he's another name. That's the Stoneman. He plays against the Raiders in a revenge game. So there are a lot of cheap quarterbacks that are at the surface this week that you can play in cash. So any certain lean as of this recording?
Yeah, I think setting the stage on this slate context is super important before we even get into any of this conversation, because as we talked about on a Tuesday show, it's like Chicago and Dallas is like the game. Outside of that, all these totals are kind of hovering in the mid to low 40s. So there's not really any like one game environment outside of Chicago and Dallas that looks really strong. So when you look at that, I think we might see a lower scoring slate. When you also couple in the fact that we have like 6 backup quarterbacks playing this weekend potentially, I think you could see some lower quarterback scoring as well. You also throw in the fact that, there's no Lamar obviously on the Monday night game. Josh Allen played Thursday. Like some of the studs that we're used to playing are not here. And when you look at pricing, Jaden Daniels is 7K at the top. We're not even sure he's playing. So then you go down to like Jalen Hurts, the Eagles pass game has been non-existent. I could see it in a tournament, but in cash, I just don't know if you go there. Baker's without like 3 to maybe 4 starting offensive linemen. Still no Chris Godwin. Emeka Egbuka missed practice 2 days in a row to start the week. They've got issues everywhere as far as injuries are concerned against the Jets. Kind of a gross game. Jordan Love's taking on the Browns. Like once you go down the pricing list, it almost funnels you like automatically to the low 6K range to 5K range, and honestly, even the Stoneman 4K. So like just setting the stage, like that's how I'm approaching quarterback for cash this week. I'm not really trying to overspend on some guys. With that said, I really like Drake May. We've kind of seen everything we've wanted to see. Yeah, I was kind of off of him all off season. Like wasn't sure, wanted to see it first, and now I'm gonna play him. I don't know why they don't change his price. Like he just keeps smashing.
I was confused,
and it's still the same. Like I think they moved it $100, and Pittsburgh defensively has been terrible to start the year. They've also got a couple of key injuries defensively. Joy Porter Jr., their corner, likely going to miss this game. Alex Highsmith, high ankle sprain. He's not going to play. TJ Watt has not really looked himself. This defense is 29th in pressure rate, and they're just getting burned left and right. So I like Drake May quite a bit in this spot again at 5,300. If you wanted to drop down even further, I think it's a really interesting conversation because we kind of said the same thing last week was like, with Mac Jones, maybe he gives you 12, 13, 14 points and it's fine in cash. He obviously was much better than that. This week, the guys that we would be talking about are Marcus Mariota potentially if Jane Daniels is ruled out against the Raiders, and then Carson Wentz against the Bengals at 4K. Now, I want to be honest. I have a little bit of like Eagles bias here in a negative way against Carson Wentz. Like, this man is on his sixth team in 6 years. Okay. So like, he's getting his miles in. He's flying around the country. He's just bopping around teams on practice squads and QB3, QB2 on depth chart. That said, Kevin O'Connell, I trust to put him in a position to succeed. Along the same lines, they've got offensive line injuries, no Jordan Addison. Do you really want to play Jordan Mason and Carson Wentz in the same lineup together?
That's a really key point there.
I think you could do it just because he's 4K and Mason's 5,400 on DraftKings. Like, the pricing does not, if Wentz was 6K and Mason was 7K, like, I would never want to do that. But those guys are so cheap that in theory you could. I just think we've seen a lot of issues with Minnesota offensively that it makes me nervous. But he's in the player pool. I wrote him up in my crash article on the site. We've seen Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins and guys just come in and succeed with this offense. So I think you could go there, but you can no doubt poke a lot of holes in this spot for Carson Wentz.
My advice this week is to play around with combinations with both. Where last week, Mac Jones was like somebody, I think he was like my QB 4 or 5 when it came to our ranks. But I was like, I'm not going to go there. I have CMC in my lineup. I don't really want to do it. Just play around with the lineups. If it's Drake May, if it's Wentz, Mariota, if you want to spend up a little bit more, like Dak's a great price. Justin Herbert, we're going to talk about later on both sites. He's a good tag on FanDuel at 7.6. Even Caleb is tempting this week on both sites as well. So a lot of different directions at quarterback this week. I do think Drake May will be the most popular click because of what he did last week and people trying to repeat that. And they're like, oh, the price is the same. They are 1.5 point home dogs. Does that line confuse you?
I think they should be favored.
Yes,
personally.
I agree.
Just with the injury issues on Pittsburgh. And, Mike Tomlin at 48-yard line, tie game, 4th and 1. You have to punt the football away. I mean, that's what we played in the 90s. That's what you have to do.
Let's go to running back because the top two options this week, CMC and Bijan, play them. You can play them together. Like, I think you can get there if you spin down at quarterback. It's possible. They both project really well. CMC is going to keep, like, are we having the same conversation every single week where we just say, just play Christian McCaffrey?
What's there to say, man? I mean, he's very, very good. He's healthy. The Niners clearly need him with some of the injuries they've got going on. Just for context, he has seen a 23.6% target share. So you're essentially getting like a wide receiver 2 level of production plus all of the carries, right? He has 17 targets. Among wide receivers, that would be 18th in the league, tied with Amon-Ra St. Brown. So you are getting basically wide receiver plus running back here at 8,200 against the Cardinals. The Cardinals, to their credit, they've been better than they have been historically against the run, but I just don't think you second guess it. Just the usage is so strong, and obviously a very, very talented player. And then Bijan against the Panthers seems awesome to me at 7,900. I also think Jonathan Taylor, once again, is an awesome, awesome play taking on the Titans. Just for context on like what the workload has been, it has been absurd. So he played every snap, like I mentioned last week, in the first half of week 1 before it got out of hand. Then you saw DJ Giddens. Last week, he played 93% of the snaps, ran around on over 70% of the dropbacks, and had another 27 touches. Like, this workload should be priced at like 8,600 or something like that. So we are still getting a huge discount on JT. Love him. The Titans have allowed the second most yards before contact per attempt and the 4th highest explosive rush rate. JT looks awesome once again.
Yeah, it was tied for the most routes run for him in the Steichen era. So, like, the usage is awesome with JTT, where before we were like, okay, maybe he'll get a target or two, but he's on the field. 90% of the snaps is wild stuff. I don't think people realize that for a running back. So, CMC, Bijan, JTT are all going to be up there. I think Jordan Mason's going to be the most popular play on the slate. I think he's going to be almost a cash lock for people at 5,400. So, I really don't have to say too much there. The Vikings have been running the ball a ton, and he's going to see a ton of work. So I think in cash, CMC, Bijan, and Mason are going to be the dudes. I wanted to bring up Jaylen Warren, though. Okay? 5.5. It's a good tag. And can I give you a hot stat?
Oh, I would love a hot stat. I love Jaylen Warren, so please.
Oh, he was your dude last year. Here are the only running backs through 2 weeks with 30 plus touches and 100 plus receiving yards: Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, and Jalen Warren.
Sounds like he's a good play.
I think he's a good play. The Patriots have been really good against the run, but the first couple of weeks. So I think he's interesting. Rodgers talked about involving him more as a pass catcher, but 5.5 I think is a good tag and a really good PPP off of Jordan Mason in tournaments as well.
Makes a lot of sense. I think you can play Javonte Williams in cash if you really wanted to.
I think you can. Once again, we said the same exact thing last week.
Yeah, it didn't feel good if you did it, but obviously it worked out. He's 6,100 taking on the Bears. We're going to talk about that game here in a couple of minutes. Obviously, it's a great game environment. So if you just wanted to say, hey, I want to get some exposure to this potential shootout, this is a way to do it, whether in tournaments or cash. But just for the matchup for context, the Bears are allowing 7.1 yards per play. This defense is absolutely horrific. And when you look at some of the rushing metrics, they're 28th in yards per carry allowed, dead last in yards before contact per attempt, and 28th in explosive rush rate. So it's an awesome spot for running backs, and he's been a workhorse, right? They're still not activating, or they haven't in any way. Jaden Blue, Miles Sanders isn't really part of the game plan here. Like, I don't know, another 18 touches seems pretty likely for Javonte Williams in a really, really good matchup. So I like Javonte quite a bit, and on this slate, the Cowboys team total stands out as one of the premier spots to attack.
If you're playing cash on FanDuel, the first thing you put in your lineup is Jordan Mason at 5.8.
Correct.
Just put it in there, go from there for cash lineups. At wide receiver, we're locking Keenan in. 4.7. Is it a lock? Is it for sure? Is it a guarantee, Matthew?
I mean, what is DK doing? I guess this is the Monday night glitch.
Yes.
But even still, like entering, that game on Monday night, he had a really strong week one, and the pass rate's been there, obviously. Pass rate over expectation for Herbert and the Chargers leading the league by a wide margin. On paper, the matchup looks tricky against Denver, but they really did not look great defensively last week against Daniel Jones and the Colts. So I think this is a fine spot to go to. And even if you don't think these ceiling outcomes repeat, the nice thing is at 4,700, we're not really asking him to do that. So yeah, I think Keenan just looks so rock solid here. He's seen target shares of 29% and 26% in his first two games back with the Chargers.
Yep. So for cash plays, I think he's great at his price point. He's project really, really well. In that middle range, Jacoby Myers at 5.6, Rome Odunze at 5.3. If you go a little bit higher, you're going to get to the range of JSN, who the usage is off the charts at 6.5. Drake London at 6K. I know people didn't like, what they saw on Sunday night and him fumbling, but he's going to project really, really well. I feel like the combinations this week are, if you're going to pay up at running back in both spots, you can't pay up for CD and Puka. So it's kind of like you might see two of CMC, Bijan, and then CD/Puka. That's what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, I think and a lot of it's going to come down to like what you want to do at quarterback. If you go all the way down to 4K with one of these guys, and you can spend up, like you said, on these stud running backs. Mason's going to be in there for, I don't know, 80+% of the field in double ups. And then I think you're going to see a ton of Keenan. And then these mid-range wide receivers look so strong. Like you said, JSN, just seeing everything for Seattle. Jacoby just keeps seeing double-digit targets every week since the Devontae Adams trade. He looks strong against Washington again. And then you mentioned Rome Odunze. I wanted to highlight in the DFS Pass, we have an article from Marvin Eloquin looking at his expected fantasy points model that just came out this week. Now that we have a few weeks of data, he highlighted in that article, Rome, even though he's kind of just popped like crazy in the box score, his usage indicates he should at least continue to put up strong numbers. Wide receiver 12 in his model in terms of usage and expected fantasy points. Obviously, we talked about that game environment being a potential shootout against a Dallas defense that just made Russell Wilson look incredible last week. So he looks really good. Still only 5,300. I don't really understand what's happening with the pricing and algorithm and stuff because they're just not moving these guys' price tags. But I honestly think you could play three of these guys in like this low 6K range to Keenan at 4,700, and your lineup is going to project really well.
Dude, I think it's Ross from Quality Control at DK.
Poor Ross.
Freaking
dude.
Ross.
I really hope his bosses don't hear this segment. Otherwise, he's going to have a notice on his desk come Monday.
Ross is just like living the dream. I work this job. It's, sports, it's analytics, it's all this other stuff. Dude forgot to actually like double check his work. You got to go. I've been telling my son that. Okay. My son's in 4th grade. It doesn't cost you anything to go back and check your work. Not a cool thing to tell your kid.
Poor Ross.
All right. Well, I'm already stressing out a little bit. Like if Keenan's in my lineup, I'm going to stress out that, okay, let's say I have JSN and Adunze. It's like, oh, well, Jacoby's a really good tag. Oh, man, that means I don't have CD or Puka. I'm going to miss out on 2 or 3 plays that I really like.
There's a lot of good plays this week. And it's actually a fun slate, I think, because of the quarterback situation going on. Like, you can pretty much build however you want, and there's a lot of ways to do it, which, again, makes for a really fun, I think, tournament play.
Yeah, and there's no chance that, like, on a 2v2 decision, I'll guess wrong this week.
No. That never happens to you.
All right. Tight end, Tyler Warren is the greatest thing of all time.
Dog.
We know that. He is a dog. 4.4. And you know what? I'm going to give you another hot stat. I need a drop for that, by the way.
Ooh, maybe we can get Mike to make you one.
Yeah, it's got to be, bold, spicy. But here are all of the tight ends in NFL history. It's been going on for a while, people, with 75 plus receiving yards in each of their first 2 career games. Tyler Warren, end of list.
That's a wild stat. A rookie tight end? That's crazy.
He's a baller. In their first 2 career games, he's awesome. He had a little toe thing pop up on Wednesday, but, they're already treating him like a veteran.
That's true, man. He got the Wednesday veteran rest. What is with the toes in the NFL this year, man? Purdy,
I actually thought
Burrow.
about doing a search and just saying, is this the most amount of toe-related stuff?
When we got groin index, we need toe index.
You need your toes. We know that's important. Juwan Johnson, 3.9. He's going to project well. Trey McBride, 5.7. I feel like we've had this conversation for 3 weeks straight of these 3 guys.
It's like the same guys every week. I think you could still technically go to Harold Fannin if you want to. I don't think you're getting as much of a discount this week. And what's interesting about McBride's price, just to highlight this, he was $6,200 in week 1 on DraftKings. He was $6K last week. He's now $5,700, yet in PPR formats, like, he's just so rock solid. And again, if you spend down a quarterback, like, you can get up to McBride kind of easily on this slate. So I think this is one of those weeks that normally we like to spend down, but again, yeah, that mid 4K range looks awesome. I think Trey McBride looks like a standout play as well.
Yeah, Tucker Kraft, 4.7. Jake Ferguson's 4K. Like, all of these I think are really, really good plays this week. And then I like Ferguson a lot in DAX stacks.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm a big turd Ferg guy. Defense this week, I think Atlanta's going to get clicked a lot. I am terrified of that on the road, but Carolina's lost a lot of offensive linemen, and Atlanta has the greatest pass rush of all time, so that's good. We have Cincinnati on here. They're 2.4. It's really cheap. They're on the road. It's a punt play. Are you comfortable playing the Bengals knowing that Mason's going to probably be in your lineup?
So I would not play, like, if you're playing Wentz and Jordan Mason together, I would not play the Bengals defense. I think you, kind of like last week, we mentioned, like, oh, you could play the Saints even if you have CMC, and if they give you, 5, 6, 7 points, like, it's probably fine. I feel the same about the Bengals. I also think the Bengals are, like, super interesting leverage in tournaments. If you think about how many people are going to show up with Jordan Mason and potentially Carson Wentz, which is a crazy thing to say in week 3 of 2025, you could get a lot of leverage on those teams if the Vikings systemically happen to fail in this spot. And I don't think that's crazy to think that that could happen. They've got offensive line issues, no Jordan Addison. Hawkinson has kind of looked meh, to start the season. And Carson Wentz is playing quarterback for this team, right? So, like, I think the Bengals are really interesting for leverage if you didn't want to play them in cash. But like I said, I do think they're cash viable just because they are so cheap.
I always think about head-to-heads and double-ups from the scene from Ron Burgundy, where all the different newscasts, they're ready for a street brawl, they're bringing the dirtiest of weapons, right? Just like, it is just dirty stuff. That is the person this week showing up with Carson Wentz saying, let's go. Let's brawl. I'm bringing a 4K Carson Wentz to this duel.
Brick killed a guy.
I know. Dude, but if you bring a Triton, that's cool.
Such a stupid movie, but so good. I also want to throw out too, I think they're interesting as like a pivot off of the Falcons, like a good PPP, Kyle. The Colts are 3,300, and Cam Ward has been kind of a disaster to start the season. Obviously, he's a rookie. He's making his 3rd career start, but this offense is averaging 3.2 yards per play, and he is currently, through 2 games, a 14.7% sack rate. J.J. McCarthy is the only quarterback that's worse. So I think the Colts are an interesting team. They are favored here on the road against Tennessee if you didn't want to play the Falcons chalk in tournaments.
I agree. I mean, Cam Ward's basically dead last in all the things. Completion percentage, yards per attempt, sacks taken, yards lost on sacks. It's definitely not great. I did want to bring up the Jaguars and Texans.
Mm-hmm.
They're in that weird range where you start thinking about it, you're like, man, CJ Stroud's not looked very good. I feel like he's been under pressure a lot. I like the Jaguars. Then you go, wait, the Texans are a really talented defense. Trevor Lawrence is a first-read thrower. This could work. So either of those teams, I think, are below 3K. They're salary savers. You can play them in cash. Lots of different directions. I probably won't be going Steelers, though, and I think Steelers will show up for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're not going to play him if you're playing Drake May, I would think.
Right.
So, yeah, again, I think there's a lot of good plays at defense this week. I also think, again, because pricing structure is so unique this week, if you wanted to spend up in a tournament on the Packers, I actually think they have a pretty high ceiling, even though they are 3,700. We've seen Flacco just completely melt down. You could see Dylan Gabriel in this game at times. Like, I think there's a chance you could see a really, really outlier performance from the Packers defense. They are 8.5-point favorites against the Browns. So again, not in cash, but in tournaments, I think they're a contrarian spend up option.
They're number one in yards per play allowed, Green Bay. And then I looked this up. Joe Flacco under pressure this season, his passer rating is 23.5.
Oof.
That's not good. That means you should be out of the league. But Joe, we let Joe stay in forever. Joe can just have a free pass.
I love Joe Flacco, man. He just doesn't care.
Yeah. Very different than like the beginning of his career, where it was like, is this guy fun? And now he's fun. He's a fun guy. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Betz, we have 4 games that we're going to talk about on this podcast that we're going to talk about stacking. So I need you to buckle up and get ready.
Stack Attack.
Every single week, I write a pace of play article, and some of the games that we talk about on this podcast, I break down different ways to stack them. And the first one we're going to talk about is very exciting. It's the Dallas Cowboys at the Chicago Bears. We get a 50-plus point over-under, which feels like it's 2020 all over again. We're getting 50-plus point games. Dallas is a 1.5-point road favorite. So that line, I feel like, has moved a couple different times. I love this game because you know for a fact that both of these pass defenses have been terrible so far, and that's usually how we like to build. Like, you can look at pace, where Dallas is 4th in seconds per play, and Chicago is 6th, so they play fast, and the pass defense stinks. That's what I want to see in a game. I wish this was in a dome. I would bump it up even further, but in my game pace score in that article, I have it as a 4.25 out of 5, which is anything above 4 means like guns up, go for it. So where do you want to start breaking down this game?
Yeah, just for context on that total, we talked on Tuesday, opened 48.5, then 49.5, now up to 50.5. So I think on this slate, it's obviously going to be the most popular game stack that there is because, like we said, everything else is like 44.5, 45.5, and lower. So it's like the game on the slate. The tricky thing is when that happens, generally we see roster percentages kind of condense. So you want to think about how can I get in this game in a unique way? And when I think about that, I think like you mentioned, Jake Ferguson, if you're stacking up Dak, makes a lot of sense. If you wanted to include Pickens and Ferguson, or you wanted to include obviously CeeDee Lamb and Ferguson, that makes a lot of sense to me because there's a lot of strong plays at tight end in that, Juwan Johnson 3,900 on DraftKings. And then we talked about some of the strength in the 4K range. I think he'll be played to some degree because this game is so good, but not a ton. So I think he's got coverage in terms of his roster percentage. I like that. And then I wanted to point out on FanDuel, I love George Pickens this week. If you're playing on FanDuel, he's only 6,200 for context on DraftKings. He's 5,900, so a really, really good value over there. And kind of like I said last week with Jameson Williams, like you never really count on these huge PPR reception volume games from those types of guys, these archetypes. But on FanDuel, where these big plays and touchdowns matter so much, I think Pickens stands out quite a bit there. So I really like him over on FanDuel.
Yeah, the popular plays in this game is going to be Odunze as the person that spills over from cash. CD is going to be up there. Javonte, I think, is going to get clicked a lot. But yeah, it's George Pickens, Turd Ferguson, and then if you really wanted to flip the script, DeAndre Swift on the other side is probably not going to be played very much. I'm not really messing around on the Bears side with some of their like really cheap options. Like, yes, Colson Loveland could catch a touchdown this week, but his usage just isn't enough for me to say, there's so many other tight ends we talked about in the 4K range that just have a higher floor and a way higher ceiling. So I'm not really looking to get there, but this game to me is a Dak double stack, and then you're figuring out who on the Bears side you're bringing it back with. Adunze, the roster percentage, I'm probably just going to meet the field. Like that's where I'm at, where it's like there was enough there this past week. And then Dallas, they gave up 264 deep passing yards last week with Russell Wilson under center. That is the most deep, so 20 plus air yards allowed by any defense since 2016. It was atrocious. The film was terrible, and Adunze is just like made for this. So it's hard to like poke holes in what I don't like about this game.
That's a good way to put it. I think it's a really good game to play. Just I would be thoughtful about how you play, and then when we get final roster percentage projections on Saturday and Sunday morning, just make sure that if you are going to play this game and it becomes very popular, just make sure the rest of your lineup is differentiated elsewhere to get some uniqueness if you're playing tournaments. But I think it's a really good game to attack. I mean, both secondaries have injuries. Both teams can put up points, even though Caleb's been like wildly inefficient and kind of just inconsistent. Like for fantasy, he's been good, right? And Rome's been incredible. I think DJ Moore is a solid play. And the other thing with these stacks is that they're not crazy expensive. Like Dak is sub 6K on DraftKings. Caleb is 5,600. I think he's a strong play. He's going to run. DJ Moore on DraftKings, you can double this up with Caleb. DJ Moore is 5,400. Rome is 5,300. Like it's a really, really good game. And I think sometimes that's just okay for tournaments. Like we often think like, oh, you got to fade the popular plays and popular games. I think this is just a great game environment to get into. But like I said, make sure if you are going to play it, just to kind of think about how to get different elsewhere.
Yeah, a Caleb double stack with DJ Moore and Rome Odunze needs 50 points to really pay off. That's 3Xing. And I know that you would say, well, 60 plus is on the table between three players. Let's say Caleb goes for 25, Rome goes for, 20, 25 himself, and then Moore adds another 18 to 20. It's like you're there. You can get that to work in this game. My question is like, what are the Bears trying to accomplish? I feel like Ben Johnson's here. I feel like he's a little frustrated. They haven't used motion that often. Like it's 7th lowest rate in the NFL, and yet their plays on motion have been good. 4 of their 5 touchdowns this year are plays utilizing motion. I'm no offensive coordinator. I'm not a play caller, but it seems to be working when they do it. And against this Dallas defense, I think it's just obvious. That's a play calling thing. How are you attacking the Dallas side? Like what's your leans on how to stack it?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're playing Dak, like I want CD in there. I think CD could just go nuts in this spot. We saw what Amon-Ra did out of the slot last week. No Jalen Johnson. Kyler Gordon probably not going to play. TJ Edwards, one of their linebackers, is out over the middle of the field. Like I think he could just go crazy here. So especially on DK, I really want CD in there. But like you talked about with Jake Ferguson, I'm into him. And then on FanDuel, George Pickens makes a lot of sense for his big play ability. On the Chicago thing, like you just mentioned with the play calling and stuff, like I feel like we're like a year away from this working. It feels like almost, not for DFS, but just like real NFL talk. Like Ben Johnson seems so frustrated that he can't get like on schedule and just have the success rate and just like, the old footballism, but like stay ahead of the chains and like keep his offense going the way he wants to. Caleb can't do everything yet in the scheme. DeAndre Swift is just like not the answer to this run game. They really struggled there with running the football, and his scheme I think needs that balance. So I think you're going to see a lot of ups and downs throughout the year in Chicago, which for DFS can be okay. But I think we're like a year away from this like really, really working out.
That's a good point. And I think we mentioned this on the Dynasty podcast that like the starting running back for the Chicago Bears is probably currently not on the roster for next year.
I think that's every week that goes by. I think that's very evident.
All right. I would take Dallas plus 1.5 or minus 1.5. I would definitely take plus 1.5 though.
Oh, if that's available, yeah, give me the plus 1.5. Yeah. I will take the over.
Okay. All right. You were the one that was pushing it up over those last couple of days from 48.5.
Darn right, baby.
All right. Next game we're going to talk about is Denver Broncos at our Los Angeles Chargers. I know we're a bit biased. We like the Chargers. I know I like Keenan Allen, but like, do you realize what they've unleashed here with Justin Herbert? Do you realize that Greg Roman has basically said, I know we try to run the ball. I know I tell people I want to run the ball, but his ADOT's at 9.6. Their pass rate over expectation is bonkers, number one in the league. And then his scramble rate, I don't know if you saw his bets, it's at almost 10% right now through 2 games.
I thought that was a really sharp take that I heard. I wish I would have been on this too, but other people made in the summer, where it's like, you guys remember he played through plantar fasciitis in the first couple of weeks, then got a high ankle sprain. Yet we've always seen these Greg Roman quarterbacks, and granted, that was Lamar for a lot of the time, but like his quarterbacks have had really strong scramble rates and done a lot with their legs. I think they know that that is a strength of Justin Herbert. So, I don't think you're ever going to see like 80, 90 rushing yard games and like break the slate in that way, but I think you're going to consistently get 20, 30, 35 yards from Herbert on a kind of a week in and week out basis. I think it's a part of their game plan and they really want to use it. So I think it's going to stay.
I think some people called him a best ball champion this summer. I can't remember where I heard it. It was on a podcast, but Justin Herbert, I think it's a great price tag this week. Fairly easy candidate if you want to double stack him. I think the question is, the most popular play in this game is going to be Keenan. And then it's not really anyone else. Like, that's what's interesting. I mean, Troy Franklin's going to get some clicks because he's cheap at 4K, but like Keenan is the most popular play. So going off of the game that we looked at earlier that's at 50.5, this one's at 45.5. The Chargers are 2.5-point home favorites. And the pace is up. Like, I wrote about this, but both these teams are top 7 in pass rate over expectation. The Broncos are 7th in seconds per play. I think there's just a lot to like in this game, and it's just not carrying the roster percentage of the other ones.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you could choose either Lab McConkey as your double stack partner with, I think Keenan's just, I think he's just good chalk. He's just too cheap. So if I'm playing a Herbert stack, I'm probably including Keenan because of the price. And then I think Ladd's interesting. We did see him pop up on the injury report, so let's make sure he's healthy. But assuming health, I think he's obviously a very strong play. And then Quentin Johnston, he's kind of like overpriced for like the actual targets he's getting, but the target quality as far as like the downfield looks and stuff are there. I think you could play him. The field's not going to play him again this week. And kind of like I mentioned with Pickens in the Dallas game, on FanDuel where he's 5,800, how he scores his points with big plays and touchdowns, he makes a lot of sense to me. So I like both guys. I think I like Ladd a little bit more on DK for like the PPR type stuff. I like Huge over on FanDuel for his big play touchdown upside.
Yeah, Ladd is a really good leverage play this week on Keenan lineups, but you can play Ladd and Keenan together. Like, realize like where Ladd plays, a lot in the slot, Keenan moves outside. You can play them together. It's totally fine. I think Ladd at his price at 6,800 is leverage over guys like JSN or other dudes in that 6K range. But yeah, I like Chargers double stacks. It is interesting how they are utilizing their running backs, where Hampton still is ahead in the snaps, but the touches and the way that they trust him, it's like, oh man, Najee's actually been more successful when they do the Greg Roman man gap concept. It's very small sample size. And that's actually what Jonathan Taylor crushed with last week against the Broncos. Just like, hey, we're bigger than you. So I think Hampton is an interesting play on this slate that will not get clicked at all. He's a large field dart throw that wouldn't shock me if he fell in the end zone twice.
I think that's an interesting take. Again, nobody's going to play him. And actually on FanDuel, he's interesting at 6K. What you need at that price is not that much relative to DraftKings scoring. So I think on FanDuel, he's an interesting play, especially like you said, in large field. Nobody's going to play him in this spot. So I don't mind that call.
Yeah. Huge on FanDuel's at 5,800. He's cheaper than Keenan, so he's kind of interesting there. What about on the Broncos side? I've watched a lot of Bo Nix film, and I feel like the game plan, I said it this summer, you and I were having conversations about them, is like, if it is 10 yards in, he can do this. There are some plays where you just kind of end up questioning, like, what are they doing? Because he's not pressured very much. His offensive line is really, really good. When he has been pressured, terrible. That's just 2 INTs. And the Chargers have been a pretty good defense overall. So any interest in stacking up the Broncos side?
Not really, to be honest. And it's tough because outside of Courtland Sutton's playing time, you really can't trust Sean Payton week to week. Like we talked about that with Troy Franklin, where it was like, oh wow, he led the team in routes. But again, I would not be surprised if all of a sudden he's back at 40% of the routes this week randomly, and then Marvin Mims pops up for a big game, and you kind of feel like you're always chasing your tail. That said, in large field lottos, if you want to throw a dart on one of these guys, it's totally cool because the price is right. But I think the most obvious way to just play it is just trust the playing time with Courtland Sutton and kind of hope he hits a big play. That's how I would approach it personally. But outside of that, I don't have a ton of interest in the Broncos.
Troy Franklin, you might look at his stat line last week, but like he has led this team in target share and targets under 10 yards. He's not just a big play threat. So I think he's a fine click at 4K, but nobody on the Broncos side is going to get played. So understand that if you are stacking this game, that you have some pieces on here that you don't have to get as weird at other spots in your lineup. If you're doing a Herbert double stack and then bringing it back with Franklin or Sutton, I think you're totally fine. You can eat some chalk in some other places, but give me your Vegas take.
Could you imagine ever betting against the Chargers, Kyle? There's no way they let us down. So I will take the Chargers. Anything less than a field goal.
Yes. Yeah. -2.5 sounds good to me. Next one, another team that will never let you down. The Atlanta Falcons at the Carolina Panthers. Falcons are 5.5-point road favorite. Over-unders 43.5. If you remember, this game last year was week 18. And it was kind of like, oh, that's cute. We're just going to let them play and have fun. It's Penix. It's Bryce Young. This is the JV teams playing each other in the NFC South. It was 44-38. Game went to overtime. And before that overtime possession when Carolina won, these two teams combined for 136 total plays. The average NFL game last year was about 123. So I think there's a lot to like in how these teams match up and how bad Carolina's defense is and how many injuries they have. And if they don't throw the ball at Xavier Legette, like there's a lot of good stuff as long as they don't throw it to him. The scary part is that we saw Atlanta have success last week where they just said, hey, we're just going to feed Bijan and Algier and run the ball 62% of their plays. It's the highest rate of week 2 and highest of any team so far. So how do you feel about the over-under right now sitting at 43.5? It's not pretty, but also the context of the slate is there's a bunch of games in this range.
Yeah, I think it also got bet down a point from our conversation early in the week. So I think under makes a lot of sense when you consider some of the numbers here and really the pace issue from the Falcons side, especially what we saw last week. Through 2 games, they are 31st in pass rate over expectation. They are also 31st in neutral pace. So their plan when the game is close has been, hey, let's slow it down. Let's just feed our running backs. And there really aren't many better opponents to do that against than the Panthers. So I think as long as they have success with Bijan and Tyler Algier, they probably will be content to limit Penix's dropbacks and pass volume. And then the other side, like the Panthers have really, really struggled. It's not shocking, right? Like when Legette can't do it and Renfro's your second option and you've got a rookie as your top guy, like you're going to struggle, especially when Bryce Young has kind of regressed a little bit this year. They're 29th in yards per play and 29th in points per game are the Panthers. So unless Penix is pushed, I don't think you're going to see a ton of pass volume. And then I've just got concerns on the other side with these offensive line injuries for a team that, like, historically with Dave Canales, like they want to lean on that to set up the rest of their play calling. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that with the offensive line issues. So I see the under here. I like Bijan for obvious reasons. You could talk me into like a leverage play of Drake London and just kind of hope he breaks a big play or something at 6K. But outside of that, like I truthfully don't have a ton of interest in this game outside of like maybe a mini correlation with like, you know, Bijan and McMillan or something like that. Like I'm not going to stack up, I don't think, Bryce Young this week. And I highly doubt I'll be stacking up Penix.
I think that's where I'm landing as well, is that overall, I like the idea of this game, but also the echoes of what they did last year is just falling fate. And so Bijan McMillan, London McMillan, that's probably how I'm going to attack this game. I will mention Darnell Mooney because last week he ran a route on 96% of Penix's dropbacks. Carolina runs cover 3 defense 50% of the time, second highest in the league. Mooney saw a 26% first read target share against it. And then, fun little stat for you, Betz. I guess I had a hot stat drop here. The guy who led this team in fantasy points per route run against cover 3 last year, which Carolina runs the most, Kyle Pitts Sr.
And he's looked pretty good to start the year.
He's a player in the NFL.
I mean, Juwan Johnson, potential chalk. Kyle Pitts, no one wants him. Same price. You tell me.
A little Pitts PPP.
Oh man, that's going to take stones to actually click that button, but it does make a lot of sense. Yeah, I don't even mind that. Like just as a one-off play in this game, he did run a route on every drop back from Penix last week.
Are you rostering any other Panther other than McMillan?
I do not believe so.
I think I'm in the same boat as you. How do you feel about this line?
The 5.5 seems fishy. because it seems so obvious, doesn't it? But divisional opponent on the road, I'm going to stay away from the line. I will take the under.
We talked about this game, Betz and I were like, hey, this is, in the short group of like, hey, Survivor Pool, Falcons are favored by 5.5 on the road. And then quickly I was like, nope, we're just going to stay away. We'll get to that team later in our Survivor Pool. We'll move down the line. Let's take a quick break and we'll talk about some more games. One more game we're going to break down. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers at the New England Patriots. The Steelers are 1.5 point road favorites. The over-under's at 44.5. Both of these teams are 1-1. They're both led by defensive-minded head coach. Tomlin is 3-0 in his career against Mike Vrabel. They're all one-score wins. Shocking, right? Steelers, one-score wins. The weirdest part about these teams is that, Drake May is going to be a super popular player on the slate. So you want to figure out, okay, who do I stack him up with? And you're like, man, this feels tough. 39% of the targets last week for the Patriots went to wide receivers. That was tied with the Steelers for the lowest in the league. So you look at this game, and the only people really carrying any roster percentage is going to be Drake May and Jaylen Warren. That's it. So you like this game probably a little bit more than I do because Drake May's in it and you love him. But is there anything else?
I like it less than I did to start the week, if I'm being quite honest.
Okay, I respect that take.
Not that Drake May isn't a good play, obviously. I think he still is, we talked about earlier. But it's tough to stack, right? Like you said, like nobody's really popping here from a projection standpoint. I will say, I think Hunter Henry's giving you like 2 catches for 12 yards or like popping up for a random 6-catch game with, 50 yards and a score. Like that's in the range of outcomes. So I don't hate him as a stacking partner if you wanted to play Drake May here. In this spot, Christian Gonzalez for the Patriots looks like he has a chance to play this week, which would really help their defense. They've really struggled in pass defense. But, Rodgers, like, it was so weird because in week 1, when nobody expected the Jets-Steelers game to shoot out, of course it does, and they had actually a really high pass rate. They were playing a little bit faster. But historically, Rodgers has really loved to slow it down. Like, he does that thing where he, changes the play at the line of scrimmage, and before you know it, the play clock's expiring, and then he actually snaps it. Like, we saw more of that type stuff this last week, and they went a little bit more with the rush rate, which is kind of a push and pull, right? Like, what does Rodgers want to do? What does Arthur Smith want to do? And I think they're still trying to figure that out. So I don't trust their numbers and their metrics yet on like what to know about how they're going to play this game. So yeah, I think Warren's a good play. I think you could talk me into DK Metcalf at very low roster percentage as just kind of like a one-off play. I'm not stacking Rodgers this week, but I think Warren and Metcalf are good tournament plays if they're going to be lower rostered. And then on the other side, for me, I think it's probably Hunter Henry as a stacking partner. Otherwise, tough to trust anybody else.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what this Mike Vrabel defense is. And I don't know, the Patriots kind of like let the Dolphins hang around last week. It's tough. I think the way that you could stack it is May with either Henry or throw a dart at the wide receivers. I mean, if you really wanted to, it's like Diggs gets the targets, Booty gets the big plays. And then Pop Douglas, it ran 9 routes last week. So it's like, the answer is probably Matt Collins.
You caught a touchdown last week.
I know he did. He let the world know.
Real quick, though, on the Patriots defense, just wanted to highlight, again, it might matter if Gonzalez is out there, but he just returned to practice this week, and he got injured in like July 28th or something like that. Like, it's been forever. So I don't think he's 100%, obviously. And if you think about the way this Patriots defense has struggled, it's been huge plays. They are 31st in explosive play rate allowed so far this year, and Metcalf is certainly capable of some big plays. So now that we talked through it, like, I think Metcalf is really interesting if nobody's going to play him. Yeah,
I'm going to look at some roster percentages right now with Metcalf, but like I'm seeing in some places like 7%. Let's see, we have him at 9%.
He'll be less than 10.
Yeah. So if you want to play May, stack him up with Hunter Henry and a DK Metcalf bring back. Sounds good to me. You need May to obviously score on the ground and, compete with that roster percentage. But yeah, I think this game's fine. I just think there's other ones that I like a little bit more, knowing that May is going to get played. But yeah, I would take the Patriots to win this game.
Go Patriots.
All right. Let's move on.
Slate Breaker of the Week.
All right, we did have a fun little sponsor for this week's Slate Breaker of the Week segment. It is Lavazza Coffee. We actually had a listener who works for Lavazza give us a little love and sent you a ton of coffee. Lavazza, which is Italian for coffee. And as an Italian, I'm down with that.
Shout out to my boy Freddie for the hookup. I'm not kidding, Kyle. So I came home one evening. I was out for after dinner, took the girls for a walk. They liked their bike ride, so we were doing that. Got home and I see this massive package on the front step. I'm like, what did my wife order now? Because there's always something showing up. And I go up and I see my name on it. I'm like, oh, what is this? And all of a sudden I open it. There are 18 bags of coffee in that thing. So I will literally not have to buy coffee for like a year and a half, most likely, unless I have a crazy addiction, which I am getting there. But thank you to Freddie. Thank you to Lavazza. I mean, what a hookup. So apparently we're just coffee sponsors now, but if anybody else
yes, here's the deal.
Kyle coffee.
Here's the deal. So we like coffee. Like we have all, if you guys don't understand how podcasting ad stuff works, the way that works for the footballers is all of our ads are all bought out. Okay. Meaning like Betz and I aren't like going back and forth between companies saying, please buy this ad space. So that's not our job. That's not what Betz and I do. And so we were like, what's a really fun way? Because we always joke about fake sponsors and like, hey, if you want to send us something, we'll give you a free ad, which is I don't even know if Andy's going to like that. But buying an ad for a podcast is very, very expensive. This is just a fun way with listeners to kind of jump in. So our DMs are open. We enjoy free stuff is what we're saying. I'm going to throw out my Slate Breaker of the Week. I've been 0 for 2, by the way. I've been horribly wrong, by the way, on my Slate Breakers.
So don't play this guy.
Yeah. That's what we're saying. Yeah, don't play him. I'm winking because I will be playing this guy a lot. It's CeeDee Lamb. He's going to be rostered. But here's what I wrote down. But not enough.
Oh.
Not enough. Here's in ours, he's at 13%. I'm seeing 12%. Another one's 13%. That's not out of control. For the highest game of the slate, he has the highest GPP value of any wide receiver on the slate if you're using our optimizer. And Dennis Allen-led defenses, they love pressing their corners. What he did in New Orleans, it's what he's doing right now in Chicago. And the Lions made them pay last week. You saw Jameson Williams go like 2 for 108 or whatever. Against press coverage, CeeDee Lamb is an absolute beast. He was targeted on 29% of his routes against press last year, 2.89 yards per out run. He's elite. You already knew that. And yet he's not going to be played enough, especially because the running backs on this slate are in the same price range. So I will be conscious about how I'm building this week, knowing that Bijan, CMC, Puka, and CD are the elite plays at those price tags this week. I will be a little higher on CD in tournaments.
I love it. Unbelievable spot here against this Bears defense that can't stop anybody, and they are just getting crushed in the slot as we saw last week. So I think CD goes bonkers here. I love this call from you. And yeah, if he's going to be somewhere around 12 to 15%, like if I was running a 150 set, like I would personally, I would be trying to double that and just get over the field. So I love it. I'm going to go with a mid-tier wide receiver play.
This is bold.
And I want to caveat this because this player did not practice Wednesday, so we need to see him back at practice. But Kyle, do you have the drop? Because this guy is a dog.
Oh, dude. Oh, sorry. Apologies to everyone and their families for not having this exactly ready.
Be a dog. We don't need no meows. We don't need no cats.
Juwan Jennings, okay?
Jennings.
Comes off of an injury last week with the shoulder. Yeah, we're not sure how healthy is he. 589, 1 touchdown, comes out and just dominates against the Saints. He's $5K on DraftKings. I love the salary for him against the Cardinals defense that, to their credit, they have been better than the last year or two, but they are dealing with some serious injuries in their secondary. And to Mac Jones' credit, like he played well enough last week. I wouldn't say he was great. He played well enough, and he can support wide receiver play as we saw going back to last year with Brian Thomas Jr. So I love the price point here because you're going to get a lot of roster percentage coverage from Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen, Jacoby Myers, like the cash plays we talked about. I think you could see Jennings come in somewhere around like 10%. And to me, that looks like an awesome place to attack in this spot. So I love Juwan Jennings at 5K this week. And I will say, if for some reason his health trends negatively as we get to Friday into the weekend, I think in that same range, Ricky Pearsall is a fine pivot. He is 5,500 on DraftKings.
Jennings was our dude last year. Remember, like, I feel like all year we were like, hey, he's really good. He's earning targets. But yeah, he's not going to get clicked a lot at 5K. I'm totally down with that. Moving on.
Prop it like it's hot.
If you'd like to get all of our props, you can find them in the DFS Pass. We add to those all throughout the week. I had to explain to some people, if you're new, we don't just take 10 props right away on a Wednesday, kind of slowly add to them. And I think it makes for good conversation. Sometimes we will actually take props that people in the Discord mention to us, and then Betz and I will go back and forth. We'll see if there's enough outs for it, and we'll bring it up. So one of the ones that you have on here today was Wednesday night. I was doing some searching. I was about to watch a show with Emma. By the way, we're rewatching Parks and Rec right now.
Oh, great show.
It's amazing, dude. We just watched the one where they have a community garden and Andy does this full-on jump into the pit.
Yes.
I died. But this was one of the props that I posted in the Discord channel that you have here, and I almost fired away before I let you know. I almost just did it without even telling you.
And I came to this play individually, so we're meeting in the middle here. Kyle spreadsheets are telling us this is a good play. Patrick Mahomes, under 30.5 rushing yards. You might look at his game logs and say, you are crazy for taking under here, because he is currently leading the NFL in terms of quarterbacks in rushing yardage. He is on pace currently for 1,045 rushing yards. And if that sounds a little funny to you because it's Pat Mahomes, it is. He is currently on pace for outlier career seasons in terms of rushing. He has way more yards than Lamar Jackson entering week 3, Josh Allen, guys that you expect from the football. Mahomes can give you 15, 20 yards with his legs most weeks, but normally his line is around 18, 19 and a half, 20 and a half, something like that. So I'm going to fade the market overreaction, I think, to what we've seen in the first couple of games. I know the Chiefs are 0-2. I know they have to win this game, and you might see some desperation plays from Mahomes, but I'm just going to bet on regression here for Pat Mahomes. And the other thing is they are 6-point favorites. If they're up in the fourth quarter, 2-minute warning gets here and they have the ball, you could see a couple kneel downs as well from Mahomes. So I will take under 30.5.
All right, I'm going to take Sam Darnold, and I want to ask you which line you like better, but it's under his rush attempts or under his rushing yards. So far in 2 games, he's rushed twice and 0 times, and he has the 4th lowest scramble rate so far of any team. The way that this Seahawks team functions is very different than how he functioned under Kevin O'Connell last year. So you can't use last year's stats with Sam Darnold and say, well, he did this last year. He's not being used that way. They're asking him to protect the ball. They're 7.5-point home favorites. His rush attempts line's at 3.5. His rushing yards at 9.5. Do you like either of those ones better? I'm worried about, with the only problem with rush attempts is a kneel will drive me crazy.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, you could see 2 kneel downs and all of a sudden you're under should have cashed, but then it won't. So I think I like the yardage better, under 9.5.
Yeah, under 9.5 rushing yards for Sam Darnold. You can find that out there in a couple of different places. One more segment.
Well, if you take a look at this, I tented my pants.
All right, Betz. We're 2-0 so far in our survivor pool. This week's a little bit tougher. I feel like there's some teams that are heavily favored, and yet I don't really know. I don't feel locked in as of this recording.
Yeah, that's tricky. We want to make sure that we have some advice for you guys and who we're playing, but we don't want to give information that could change. So I will say we're looking at 2 spots. Seattle, 7.5-point home favorites against the Saints. I will say I've seen that line move to 7, 6.5 in a couple spots. So I'm a little hesitant on that, but we're watching for some injuries on the defensive side for Seattle. So that is on the short list. We're also looking at San Francisco, which sounds terrifying if it's Mac Jones again under center. But as I noted with Juwan Jennings, the Cardinals secondary is dealing with some issues. And Robert Saleh has the defense playing incredibly well right now in San Francisco. Kyler just so inconsistent, feels like one of those spots where you might see this move in the direction of the Niners. It's currently a field goal favorite. So those are on the short list for us. Obviously, you could play, the Bucs, but they've got so many injuries. It's crazy what they've got going on this week against the Jets. You could also play, of course, the Bills just played last night, but I don't want to waste. Yeah, the Packers are fine, but I don't want to waste those elite teams yet. So I think we're looking at Seattle or San Francisco. We will notify everybody of our official pick probably on Saturday in Discord and maybe on Kyle's. His social media is just crazy these days, but maybe on Kyle's socials.
Yeah. My Zanga, I haven't posted in probably 20 years, but I bet there's people just waiting patiently, just sitting there man, what Where is this guy? Why isn't he posting? I don't really understand.
Do you have a lean between those two right now?
Gosh, I think San Francisco is a sharp play. They're number one in EPA per pass attempt so far, and I know that they played like a couple of teams. They played the rat tail, but I kind of like that play. But also, it's because like it's a very, very anti-Kyler pick.
Yeah. I mean, Kyler. What's so frustrating about him, right, is that sometimes you expect him to have this great game and he does nothing, and then all of a sudden, when you expect minimal from him, he's incredible, and he's just like so up and down. So this is a tough week for Survivor, I think, unless you want to use, the Bills or the Packers or something, which I don't know. So we'll see. We're either going to back Sam Darnold, Kyle, or Mac Jones, and this is going to be incredible.
That's the problem with Survivor pools is when you click a team, and we just gave all the cases of why you would pick them. You should do the inverse and go, do I really want to look at myself on Monday and go, dude, why would I pick Mac Jones?
There's no way this goes poorly.
Yeah, I like the Seattle defense at home. So I think San Francisco is a sharp play.
We're waiting on Devin Witherspoon for Seattle, and then Nicky Manwari, their pick this year. So we'll see. We'll let you guys know in Discord.
That's going to do it for us. If you want to play with us, you can go to ballersdfs.com or DraftKings League, Fantasy Footballers DFS, Borg Betz, and make sure you head to the Discord, ask some questions of the props channel, the DFS channel, any optimizer questions, you can do that. Betz, sign us off.
Yes, sir. Fun episode, man. But like we just mentioned, there's a lot of moving parts on this slate. So please make sure you check out Best Plays on Saturday as well and get in Discord. And then Kyle's tournament takes and pivots, leverage points as well out on Saturday. Should be a great slate. We'll catch you guys on Tuesday. Enjoy the football.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com.